Next on KPBS Evening Edition, a historic move forward in the impeachment process. Democrats announced 2 articles of impeachment against President Trump, where the future of his presidency goes from here. Plus, a sheriff's deputy who assaulted several women while on the job learns his fate in court. A full report on his sentencing. And fallout between residents and officials in Poway following the water cutoff. Who's blaming who and why? KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening. It's Tuesday, December 12th. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. A dramatic day on Capitol Hill. After hours of testimony in public and behind closed doors, Democrats believe they have their case against President Trump, announcing 2 articles of impeachment. It's just the 4th time in U.S. history that Congress has made such a move. Karen Caifa has details from Washington.
The first order of business for members of Congress is the solemn act to take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and House Committee Chairman announcing 2 articles of impeachment against President Trump.
We must be clear. No one, not even the president, is above the law.
One article, abuse of power. The second, obstruction of Congress. Both related to the president's dealings with Ukraine and the investigation into his actions. The Democratic majority in the House makes it all but certain that Trump will become just the 3rd U.S. president to be impeached. Democrats debated but opted not to pursue a 3rd article of impeachment on obstruction of justice related to the Mueller report. Instead, arguing the Ukraine matter illustrates a pattern of behavior on the part of the president.
To do nothing would make ourselves complicit in the president's abuse of his high office, the public trust, and our national security.
After the announcement, President Trump tweeted, "Witch hunt." Republicans have been sharply critical of the speed of the proceedings, repeatedly attacking Democrats' moves less than 1 year before an election at a public hearing on Monday.
At the end of the day, all this is about a clock and a calendar.
The House Judiciary Committee will meet later this week to consider the articles, the lead up to a full floor vote. In Washington, I'm Karen Caifa.
On the same day that House Democrats unveiled articles of impeachment against President Trump, they announced a big deal with the White House on trade. Hill, Democrats and the Trump administration have reached an agreement to move forward with the president's replacement for NAFTA. KPBS's Chris Underwood explains.
House Democrats and the White House say they have a deal to move forward with the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, President Trump's long-promised replacement of NAFTA.
This is a day we've all been working to and working for.
The White House was eager to have the deal finalized before the 2020 election, but House Democrats pushed for more provisions on labor, environment, and pharmaceuticals.
Over the intense period of these negotiations with the administration, I repeatedly emphasized that USMCA will deserve a vote because it's an agreement that Democrats shaped.
House Republicans touting a victory for the president.
I give President Trump credit for creating a new bipartisan model for free and fair trade that levels the playing field for American workers.
A full House vote on the trade deal could come as soon as next week. Chris Underwood, KPBS News.
A former San Diego County Sheriff's deputy will spend the next several years behind bars. This after being found guilty for sexually assaulting a number of women between 2015 and 2017 while on the job. KPBS reporter Priya Sridhar was in the court and has reaction from his victims.
33-year-old Richard Fisher pleaded guilty to 4 felonies and 3 misdemeanors for assault under color of authority and false imprisonment based on allegations from 16 women. Fisher met the women while either arresting them or responding to 911 calls they made. More than a dozen of the women accused Fisher of groping, hugging, and trying to kiss them. Today, one victim addressed the court and Fisher before his sentencing.
That night, I was searched inappropriately. My vagina was touched, my buttocks cupped and fondled, while my hands restrained behind my back, all by an officer of the law. I recall that night and how difficult it was for me to wrap my brain around what was happening.
In addition to jail time, Judge Daniel Goldstein sentenced Fisher, a Marine Corps veteran, to 16 months of mandatory supervision upon release.
Unfortunately, you disgraced your uniform. You disgraced these deputies that are in my department every day who protect me, who protect the clerks, who protect all the public and the attorneys in the courtroom. You disgraced the Marine Corps. And I don't know if you get it. I can't imagine what you were thinking.
The judge said that based on psychological examinations of Fisher, he believes it is not appropriate for him to register as a sex offender. Fisher's defense attorney says it was the right call.
I felt that the judge's sentence was very fair, very considered, and an appropriate sentence. The judge really took into account whether or not my client presented any future danger and would need to register as a sex offender. He did not believe that there were any facts set forth in the record.
Fisher will serve 22 months in county jail before he's eligible for release. He's barred for life from getting another job in law enforcement. Priya Sridhar, KPBS News.
The water in Poway is safe to drink. This after stormwater contaminated the city's water supply, forcing people to turn off their taps for a week. But now there's a political battle brewing. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman explains.
As elected officials, we need to step up and hold our colleagues accountable. The mishandling of the Poway contamination incident erodes the confidence of the public of all our water boards.
Water board members from the Lakeside and Otay water districts are pointing the finger at Poway Mayor Steve Voss.
The buck stops with the mayor of Poway, and he was slow to react.
While the city was under a boil water advisory and residents were told not to drink the water, Voss seemed to send a different message.
We continually have great test results. I'm drinking the water. We need to get this lifted.
Making these irresponsible comments prior to final testing results was reckless. Elected officials should always err on the side of caution.
The group going after Voss calls themselves the East County Clean Water Coalition.
We're very loosely formed, and we just kind of hang out sometimes and talk about water issues.
Yet most of the group's members have endorsed Joel Anderson, Voss's opponent for county supervisor in the upcoming election. The group spokesman denied that the press conference was a political attack on Voss.
We're talking about public safety, and we're talking about clean water.
But Poway City Councilman Barry Leonard isn't buying it.
Let's go to motive. Why would water people from East County come to Poway to talk about a problem that we've already solved? And why would they mention the mayor time and time again? It's politically motivated, and it's just not right.
Leonard said the group is trying to simply capitalize on a crisis and embarrass the city.
Today's dog and pony show was not about dirty water. It was about dirty politics.
While some are pointing fingers over who's to blame for the water contamination, more than 100 restaurants were closed in Poway, and business owners are happy to be back open.
Customers are happy. They missed us. You know, we've had people call. There were people that called in every day. Are you open? Are you open?
All right, how's it going?
We talked to Ron Pohl, who owns Duke's Deli and Grill in Poway, last week when his business was empty.
And here we go. Papa Duke's Deli and Grill is Ron. Not at all. We're closed like everybody else. I'm sorry.
Now he says he's talking to lawyers to see if he can get back part of the estimated $8,000 he's lost.
We need to get some kind of compensation for what happened. You know, I mean, I have all these people that didn't make any money, you know, so along with myself losing money, and it's not a good thing.
City officials and the Poway Chamber of Commerce are pushing an Eat Big, Tip Big campaign to help restaurants who lost business during the water crisis. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
A group of doctors from across the country are spending the week in San Diego. They're here demanding they be allowed to vaccinate detained migrants against the flu. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler was with them as they protested outside of Border Patrol headquarters in Chula Vista.
Over the past year, 3 detained migrant children have died of the flu while in Border Patrol custody in Texas and New Mexico. They include 16-year-old Carlos Vasquez, whose death in May came after Border Patrol agents neglected to give him medical assistance as he lay dying. Footage of his death was uncovered by the news outlet ProPublica last week.
We want to make sure that we keep it sight of our goal, and our goal is to get vaccination.
Doctors for Camp Closure is a grassroots organization of medical professionals. They organized a trip to San Diego this week to offer flu vaccinations to migrants being held in nearby Border Patrol stations. Customs and Border Protection does not vaccinate its detainees, saying it has no responsibility to do so. On Twitter, the Department of Homeland Security derided the doctors' campaign, saying, of course Border Patrol isn't going to let a random group of radical political activists show up and start injecting people with drugs.
All of these deaths are completely preventable.
Julie Sierra is a San Diego-based doctor who is a member of Doctors for Camp Closure. She has been helping treat migrants on both sides of the border over the past year and has seen firsthand the impact that conditions inside Border Patrol facilities have had on the health of migrants.
So the conditions that they're in, that's how viruses spread. Putting a lot of people in a small amount of space without hygiene is how you get illnesses to spread. And the flu is like any other virus. It spreads like crazy.
Marie DeLuca is an emergency room doctor in New York who came down to take part in the vaccination offer. She's skeptical about Customs and Border Protection's reasoning behind not vaccinating their detainees.
As a law enforcement agency, they're choosing to detain people in crowded conditions, which means that they're actually placing people in a situation where infectious disease is more likely to spread. So they're actually creating this problem.
On Monday, doctors marched to a Border Patrol facility in San Ysidro, where their request to vaccinate detainees was denied. On Tuesday, the group marched to Border Patrol headquarters in Chula Vista in order to speak with higher-ups in the agency. Their request was once again denied. After marching in front of Border Patrol headquarters, several activists and doctors were taken into custody by Federal Protective Services officers after they blocked the entry to the headquarters. The group plans to offer vaccinations at another Border Patrol facility on Wednesday. In Chula Vista, Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
The number of people apprehended crossing the southern border is continuing its downward trend. That's according to the latest numbers released by Customs and Border Protection. CBP's newest data released Monday shows the number of people caught crossing the southwest border has dropped by a third over the last year. CBP credits the drop to policies aimed specifically at Central American migrants like the Remain in Mexico program, which sends asylum seekers back to Mexico to wait as their asylum claims are processed. The acting commissioner of the CBP held a press conference to talk about the decline.
This decrease is more than 70% at the height of the crisis in May. Remember, that was 144,000. 6 months later, we have reduced the monthly apprehensions by more than 100,000.
In the San Diego sector, the amount of families apprehended so far in the fiscal year has dropped by 40% compared to the same time last year, while the amount of Central American families apprehended has declined. The data shows the amount of Mexican families apprehended have almost doubled. Some of San Diego's highest fire risk areas are in canyons and nature parks. That's a problem as homeless people seek shelter there, setting fires to stay warm and to cook food. iNewsSource investigative reporter Mary Plummer says it also puts homeowners on edge.
In parks across the city, neighborhood residents like Bruce Thompson are reporting illegal fire rings, cooking supplies, and signs of drug use among dry brush and natural vegetation.
Sent out numerous emails, made phone calls, and almost never get a prompt response, and often I had to follow up several times in order for something to get done.
Thompson and a neighbor took us on a tour through North Choyas Community Park after an August canyon fire. They said the community's calls for help on a variety of problems have gone largely unanswered by the city.
I don't want to see people get hurt. I don't want to see property damaged.
An iNewsSource review found long delays in response to some fire risks reported through the city's Get It Done app, or no solution at all. Residents also told us some submissions were marked as closed or corrected, but the problems never fixed. The city knows the Get It Done app needs work and plans to update it early next year. As for fire dangers tied to homelessness, we asked for an interview with Mayor Kevin Faulkner. Instead, his spokeswoman emailed that the office is doing, quote, everything possible to mitigate the potential for spark. Fire incident call records obtained by iNewsSource also show how often firefighters are responding to homeless problems. For the first 9 months of this year, 11% of the calls mentioned homeless encampments.
There's always two sides to a coin.
ain't seeing the other side of it.
Tom Scott is a homeless veteran who's lived near Florida Canyon and Balboa Park for 15 years. He says the fires are needed for people to survive.
We use fires in the canyons to eat with and to keep warm with at night.
Scott says he uses a stove to cook. Others light wax on wood or use bark and paper bags as kindling.
People don't understand that out in the canyons. You can walk down the hill at night, you feel a 15-degree change. From up here, about a third of the way down, you'll feel it. It gets cold down there. That's why they have fires.
For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource investigative reporter Mary Plummer.
iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. San Diego City Council members passed a measure today that aims to get private developers to produce more affordable housing. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says it's a big win for the council president.
When this policy first went to the City Council in July, it passed with just 5 votes. Then the mayor, under pressure from developers and business groups, vetoed it. This time around, the slightly tweaked version won support from those same groups, and it passed with a veto-proof majority of 7 votes. The policy, called inclusionary housing, requires developers to set aside 10% of the homes they build for low-income households. If they don't, they have to pay a fee that helps build affordable housing elsewhere in the city. Council President Georgette Gomez says it's just one of many tools the city has to address the housing crisis.
Is this the solution? No, it isn't. We need to do much more to really ensure that we are housing all San Diegans, and it is a crisis that we have in front of us.
The council's 2 Republicans, Chris Cate and Scott Sherman, voted against the measure. Sherman said he just couldn't support higher fees for home builders. The policy change is one of the biggest accomplishments yet for the council president, who is also running for Congress. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
For about 4.5 years, the City Heights Coffee House has provided a place for community involvement and employing local youth. But the coffee shop closed recently, leaving some people to wonder what's going on. KPBS Speak City Heights reporter Ebony Monet says the name of the business has changed, but not the mission.
The coffee is brewing again on University and 45th.
So happy. We work at a school, so we need our coffee.
City Heights Coffee House is now Ryan Brothers Coffee. New business owner Maxine Zepeda works behind the counter.
Mexican mocha.
This is my dream. I always dream to do something like this.
Before taking the leap into business ownership, Zepeda managed the Barrio Logan location.
I fell in love with coffee. This is my passion, and that's what I love.
And while Zepeda has found her passion in coffee, former City Heights Coffee House co-owner Sterling Tran says her calling is helping young people with their career goals. But doing that and running a business became too much.
We're really thriving at was the employment side of things. But the business side of things is just really difficult.
Tran will continue the workforce employment program under the new moniker Worthy. Partnering with Ryan Brothers, Tran will train up to 10 young people a year. Zepeda says she's happy to help a community that's home to many immigrants.
So I'm an immigrant myself. So I know how hard it could be, not be your first language, not have any work experience, but I have a lot of people who help me too. So I want to do the same.
Ebony Monet, KPBS News.
Sunny skies will be sticking around for a while, but it will also come with chilly temperatures. Meteorologist Marvin Gomez has our forecast.
Hope you're having an excellent day so far. Thanks for staying with us here on KPBS News. I'm AccuWeather's Marvin Gomez. Hopefully you enjoyed this beautiful day we had throughout the region. Looking at our satellite and radar, not a whole lot to show you here. It's been a quiet day, and if we take a look at the bigger picture here for much of the West Coast and to California. Some of those high clouds moving through the state today. Across Northern California, we did have some moisture moving through, bringing a couple of showers for the coast. But for us tonight, we are going to see clouds breaking. 51 degrees will be the low, and a couple of clouds again into much of San Diego County. Those lows are going to be chilly across Escondido, 43 degrees for tonight. Even colder across Ramona, almost freezing there there, 37. 37 for Mount Laguna. Borrego Springs with lows near 43 degrees. All right, here is your futurecast. Notice how some of those high clouds that we've been dealing with for most of the day, those are going to be fading off as we head into our Wednesday. Mostly sunny conditions and temperatures slightly warmer than they were today. Taking a look at Borrego Springs, 71 degrees, 55 for Mount Laguna, and across San Diego, 67 should be the high. Looking at our Wednesday overall, everyone across the Southwest very dry and feeling comfortable, and we are going to continue to see quiet weather for most of the week. Temperatures slowly increasing, getting to 70 degrees by our Friday across the coast. Partial sunshine for Friday. Across inland areas, temperatures increasing as well. Mid-70s for Thursday and Friday. It's going to be dry out there, and across the mountains also dry weather with temperatures reaching 60 degrees by the time we wrap up the work week. Across the deserts, 71 heading into Wednesday, 77 for Thursday, and 72 as we take you into Friday with dry weather across most of the region. High pressure system still in place. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather's Marvin Gomez. Back to you.
The U.S. is experiencing the earliest flu season in 15 years. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is actively monitoring flu activity in more than half of the country. Reed Binion has tips on staying healthy.
Seasonal flu activity continues to increase in the United States, and the key to fighting the flu is to arm yourself with the best defense you have, your immune system. Experts recommend that everyone 6 months of age and older get a flu shot. Even though flu season is well underway, it's not too late to get vaccinated. Common areas in your home should also be regularly disinfected. The flu virus can live on surfaces for several hours, so wash those bed sheets, blankets, towels, and your hands. Diet also plays a role in fortifying your immune system. If you're worried about catching the flu, avoid excess sugar and alcohol consumption.
Alcohol suppresses your immune system. Too much added sugar can suppress your immune system. So, especially during flu season, we need to be very aware of how much we're drinking alcohol and how much added sugar we're eating and minimize those.
For today's Health Minute, I'm Reed Binion.
Used and old gifts are new again. According to 2 surveys this holiday season, consumers are more interested in buying and receiving sustainable gifts. In today's Consumer Watch, Meredith Wood has a closer look at the growing trend in holiday shopping.
Gifting used goods. What was once a no-no appears to be growing into a holiday trend, with younger shoppers jumping into the resale and thrifting scene.
The competition is kind of fierce now because you're in the thrift stores and you're seeing so many other people.
According to a new report from Accenture, 48% of those surveyed said they were willing to give secondhand apparel as gifts. And 56% said they would welcome such gifts for themselves.
Go frequently and see what's new, what's come in, because things that are really good don't stay long.
A new report by online consignment store ThredUp projects the secondhand market to grow to $51 billion by 2023 as more people look to reduce their carbon footprint in the age of disposable fast fashion. Meanwhile, a report by Accenture found that sustainability was high on consumers' minds this holiday shopping season. Half are planning to choose delivery options with a lower environmental impact. And it's not just the environment. That ThredUp report found people are ditching retail and hunting treasures at thrift stores, citing these reasons: the uniqueness, the value, and the fun of the treasure hunt.
What I love about thrifting is the thrill of it, the challenge in finding something unique that everybody else isn't going to wear.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Meredith Wood.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, Democrats unveil impeachment articles on the day they strike a trade deal with the White House. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
A close call was caught on camera in Utah when a baby took a headfirst tumble off a countertop. Luckily, a store manager was there for the quick save. Jeremy Roth has details.
Surveillance shows a quick-acting store manager in Utah catch a falling baby. It happened at a pawn shop in the city of Hurricane. The baby was perched on the glass counter while two women were shopping for a gun. That's when manager Bill Reel saw the baby start to fall.
And I just booked it that way. I was scared to death. I grabbed the baby, my heart was racing, I was pretty shaken up.
The child was uninjured, and Reel says the close call proves you have to remain vigilant, but he was glad he was there.
Lucky, to be in the right place at the right time.
Arizona played host to the World Axe Throwing Championships, which is like the Super Bowl of beard and mustache-related sports. Competitors from as far as Ireland came to test their mettle with a little skill, a little luck.
Usually a decent bit of alcohol intake.
Yeah, that too. 64 competitors vied for the title and the $15,000 prize, which ultimately went to American Sam Carter. But the real winner may have been the burgeoning sport itself. It was the first year the championship was televised on ESPN. Finally, watch Las Vegas residents use lights of love to spread lots of love. The display was organized for the patients in UMC Children's Hospital and their families. First responders and community members used flashlights to illuminate the hospital, and the kids used their own lights of love to respond. The event is to show patients and their families that they are not alone during the holidays. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us tonight. Have a great evening.